you got to change your life. You can't just, if you're going to keep doing the same old thing you've always done, you know what's going to happen? Miracle or miracle, you're going to get exactly the same results. So we're going to take action. Hi everyone, welcome to my very first vlog. This is going to be a regular personal vlog as opposed to my website, which is all about teaching and inspiration. This is going to be personal. It's going to be about me. I'm going to talk a lot more about myself than I normally do. I just think I'm boring. Why would any of you be interested in my life? So I rarely talk about myself. Try to avoid it at any rate. But on this vlog, it will be a very deliberate effort to talk about myself, to talk about my beliefs, my philosophy, my thinking, and maybe some of what I'm doing, not too much. That's still, I think, mostly boring. Right now I'm in the National Forest in Oregon. You can see around me, it's a beautiful, beautiful place. I love this place. I'm right on a lake. The van's here. It's fantastic. I love where I'm at. And I'm in Oregon because my mom is not, have some health issues, real severe health issues. I'm not sure how much time I have left with her, so I'm spending all the time I can with her while her health is still pretty good. Okay, so let's talk about the vlog. Now, I've talked about philosophy and mental health and emotional health and spiritual health at different times. The vlog is all about well-being, how you can live your very best life. That's the whole goal. That's what we're going to talk about. As far as I know, that's about all we'll ever talk about. How you can live your very best life. What I've done to live my best life and the things I've done that have given me a better life, and apparently it's working pretty well because a lot of you watch me and you're hearing the message that I give out and you're liking what you hear and you're taking steps to follow after me. And so I want you to know as much about my way of life and why I do the things I do as I can communicate to you. And so that's the goal. You got to change your life. You can't just, if you're going to keep doing the same old thing you've always done, you know what's going to happen? Miracle or miracle, you're going to get exactly the same results. So we're going to take actions. I'm going to suggest things you can do. My whole life changed in 1995 when I moved into a van in 1995. That had an enormous change on me. But more than that, I started to follow a program, a spiritual program. And I started taking very specific actions. One of the things I have tried to do on a daily basis since 1995 is to, at the end of every night, ask if I'd been loving and kind to every person I met. Now, if you want to know, take an action that will pretty dramatically alter your life, that's it. At the end of the day, if you take an inventory and you say, how did I do today? Did I treat people well? Was I kind? Was I loving? Was I generous? Was I selfish and thinking about myself all day? If you'll start doing that, I can guarantee your whole life is going to change in dramatic and radical ways. And some of you will think, well, that sounds terrible. I wouldn't possibly do that. Well, maybe you should give some thought to doing that. We'll talk about it, and I'll talk about your objections to doing those things. So we're going to look at the head and science and thinking about it, and the heart and the soul and our emotions and spirituality. Yes, we will talk about spirituality. And our actions, hands, head, heart, and hands. The goal of this vlog will to bring your head, your heart, and your hands into harmony, into acting and doing and feeling the same way. And so that when your head thinks something, your heart agrees and your hands gladly do it. The problem with nearly all of us today is our heads tell us something, our hearts say, no, that's not the way I should live. I shouldn't be going to 9 to 5 to a job I hate and doing it for the next 30 years. Your heart cries at that thought. Oh, there's got to be more to life than this. And your hands are busy doing these things. You're making somebody else rich at meaningless, tedious drudgery. And your heart and your head just cry out and say, please don't do this to me. There's got to be a better way to live. There is. And so I believe nomadism and living in a vehicle, living cheap, abandoning a lot of the silly lies that society teaches us is the better way to live. But we have to bring our head and our heart and our hands into alignment, and then you can have a good, happy life. You can live your best life. In 1995, when I started on my new program, I read something in a book, and we'll talk at great length about that program and about this book and how it's changed my life. And I'll suggest that perhaps you should consider changing your life in some ways too. One of the things I read in this book was a quote that I have changed everything about my life. This book said that we are sure that God wants us to be happy, joyous, and free. And that was a completely radical idea to me. I've been religious all my life, and never once in my life had I thought God wanted me to be happy, joyous, and free. I was certain God wanted me to be good. And if I was good, then my life would go well. And if I wasn't good, God would thump me in the head and say, hey, straighten up. And if you don't, things aren't going to be good for you. And so I always believed that God wanted me to be good. And that was about all. And if I was good, then he'd be good to me. And if I wasn't, then, well, no, he probably wasn't going to be so good for me. But this was a completely radical, different way of thinking about life and the world. That God, now when I say God, I don't believe in the God of the Bible. I don't believe in the God of the Quran. I don't believe in the God of Hinduism or the Jewish God or the Muslim God or any God. I don't believe in any God. The universe wants you to be happy, joyous, and free. And that's something I absolutely, totally believe. The universe wants you to be happy, joyous, and free. And the only thing you can do wrong, the only sin you can commit, is to fail to be happy, joyous, and free. Then you've messed up. And if you're doing what we traditionally think of as bad, sinful things, then you're not going to be happy, joyous, and free. And so the thing to do is to align your life in such a way that, in fact, you are happy, joyous, and free. And you'll be doing the right things, and the immediate response will be to be happy, to be joyous, to be free. Now let's talk kind of briefly about those three things: happy, joyous, and free. Happy is an external thing that you get on the outside. It comes and goes with your circumstances, and when it comes, it doesn't last very long. We'll talk about the science of something called hedonistic adaptation, which is hard-proven science, universally accepted in psychology, that something really good, and you'll have really experience happiness when something really good happens, and you'll experience if something bad happens, your happiness will be gone, and you'll be really down and low happy. But you bounce right back and you adapt right to it, and you and I have always seen that. So the main thing we're going to learn about happiness is not to pursue it. You don't chase happiness. You chase happiness and you'll never get it. One of my favorite quotes is, happiness is like a butterfly. If you chase after it, it'll always just run away. But if you sit down and you relax and you smile and have a good moment, maybe the butterfly will find you. And that's the way happiness works. Give up chasing it and you'll probably find it. But then there's joy. And joy is something that we're going to pursue. Joy, I believe joy comes from deep within inside your heart. Deep down, it bubbles up and it fills you. It comes from the inside. Happiness comes from outside, and you have no control over it. It comes and goes. You have no control. Everything that makes you happy can be taken away from you in a moment's time, and then all of a sudden, you're not happy. But joy, that comes from deep up inside. That's from the heart, and it's yours. And I believe all joy comes from connection to nature. Look at that shot behind me. I come out here and camp here all the time. That's joy, that connection to nature. My connection to Cody brings me incredible joy. My connection to my friends, my connection to my work, my connection to the universe and a higher power, that brings me joy. And that's mine. That's not just going to disappear. The feeling of joy isn't always there, but that connection and belongingness that joy is always mine. And so finally there's freedom. So we are sure that God wants us to be happy, joyous, and free. A lot of times I'm not joyous. Many times I'm not happy, but I can always be free. What is freedom? One of my favorite quotes is from a man named Viktor Frankl. We're going to talk about Viktor Frankl a lot. And one of the quotes I really love from him is, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Viktor Frankl was a noted Jewish psychiatrist, was a student of Freud, and during World War II he was put in Auschwitz. He spent 3 years in he was Jewish, and he spent 3 years in Jewish concentration camps. His wife died, his children died, his parents died. All the horrors of, and so he spent a lot of time thinking, and what he realized was that, everything in life can be taken from you, but there's one thing that always remains yours, and that's your freedom. Your freedom to choose how I'm going to respond in this situation to these circumstances. That's mine. And the Germans had complete control over him in every aspect of his physical life, his body, his emotions, but they didn't control how he responded. And so he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning, and he said the prisoners that had a meaning, a purpose, a reason to live, a reason to wake up the next day, they lived the longest. Now, a prison guard can come along and shoot them in the head any time. I mean, that was routine. And so, their meaning and purpose couldn't prevent that. But as long as one of those things didn't happen, they lived, they survived. They were the survivors of Auschwitz. And so he said that meaning is what's all important in the human life. It's not happiness. It's not joy, because there was no happiness in the camps. So maybe there was a slightest joy at an extra crumb of bread. But even in that, there were prisoners who went around and got that extra slice of bread and gave it away to someone who was worse off than they were. And there were prisoners who went around and comforted others. And, so they had their choice, and they had freedom to choose how they would live and how they would respond. There was a space between the stimulus of the horror of their lives and their response to the horror of their lives. And that was their freedom and their growth. And so we all have a choice. We all have some freedom in how we actually live our lives. And so this vlog will be all about choosing. It will be taking actions. It will be thinking and learning and feeling and tuning into our hearts and our souls and our minds and everything about us. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that thumbs up button, and we'll talk to you later.